The longer you tolerate toxic people, the more you betray yourself. They don't always scream. They don't always insult you directly. They don't always explode in dramatic scenes. Sometimes it's quieter than that. Sometimes they just drain your energy. They twist your words in subtle ways. They ignore your boundaries as if they never existed. They make jokes that feel slightly humiliating. They dismiss your feelings with a smile. And slowly, so slowly you barely notice, you lose your peace just to keep them comfortable. Stoicism offers a different path. You don't fix toxic people. You outgrow them. Toxic people are not just difficult. Difficult people have bad days. They apologize. They reflect. They improve. Toxic people repeat. They repeatedly cross your limits. They repeatedly shift blame instead of taking responsibility. They repeatedly use guilt, anger, silence, or victimhood to control outcomes. They repeatedly create emotional chaos and then act confused when you react. The pattern is the proof. Not one argument, not one misunderstanding, repetition. And yet, you stay, not because you enjoy suffering, but because you keep expecting rational behavior from irrational people. You keep explaining. You say, "That hurt me." You say, "Please don't speak to me like that." You say, "I just need you to respect this boundary." They nod, they apologize, they promise. And for a moment, you feel hopeful. Maybe they understand now. Maybe this conversation changed something. Maybe this time will be different. But weeks later, the same behavior returns. The same tone, the same manipulation, the same chaos. And every time you forgive, you give away a little more of your peace. The human brain wants harmony at all costs. Conflict feels threatening. Your nervous system interprets tension as danger. So instead of confronting the problem directly, you smooth things over. You minimize your discomfort. You say, "It's okay," even when it's not. You tell yourself, "It's not worth fighting about. They didn't mean it that way. I don't want to create drama." But avoiding short-term discomfort often creates long-term damage, because every time you tolerate disrespect, you teach someone how to treat you. Empathy complicates everything. You are not cold. You are not heartless. You look at them and think, they've had a difficult life. They're just hurting. They don't know any better. I should be more understanding. And maybe they have suffered. Maybe their past shaped them this way. Maybe their wounds are deep. But Stoicism makes a sharp distinction. Understanding someone's pain does not require you to become collateral damage. Empathy without boundaries becomes self-neglect. You start absorbing their instability. You start walking on eggshells. You start calculating every word to avoid triggering another conflict. And without realizing it, your world begins shrinking. You speak less freely. You express less honestly. You feel less like yourself. There is another uncomfortable truth. Toxic company still feels like company. Silence can feel heavier than chaos. Loneliness can feel scarier than tension. So you stay, not because it's healthy, but because it's familiar. And familiarity often feels safer than uncertainty. You tell yourself, "At least I'm not alone." But what kind of companionship requires you to disappear? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall meet people who are selfish, ungrateful, arrogant, and deceitful. This was not bitterness, it was preparation. He understood that difficult people are part of reality, and if you expect them, you are not shocked by them. Shock creates emotional turbulence. Expectation creates calm. When you stop being surprised by toxic behavior, you stop being destabilized by it. Epictetus said, "If someone speaks badly of you, do not defend yourself. Simply say, 'He does not know my other faults.'" Why? Because reaction fuels chaos. Toxic people often seek reaction. They provoke, they test, they push. They say something sharp and watch your face. They send a message and wait for your emotional response. Because reaction gives them relevance. Calm indifference starves it. When you do not react dramatically, when you do not defend endlessly, when you do not argue in circles, their power weakens.
Seneca advised, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Read that again. Likely to improve you. Not tolerate you, not drain you, not compete with you. Improve you. Your environment shapes your character. The conversations you have, the energy you absorb, the standards you normalize. If someone constantly pulls you down, distance is not cruelty, it is wisdom. Most people stay trapped because of 3 false beliefs. The first, I can fix them. You think if you love harder, explain clearer, stay calmer, be more patient, they will transform. But you cannot fix personality that does not want to change. Growth is voluntary, and voluntary change cannot be forced by your effort. The second belief, if I explain better, they'll change. But sometimes they understand perfectly. They simply do not prioritize your comfort over their habits. Understanding is not transformation. Agreement is not consistency. Words are not character. The third belief, walking away means I failed. You think endurance equals strength. You think staying equals loyalty. You think tolerating equals maturity. But sometimes walking away is the most rational decision available, not because you hate them, but because you respect yourself. Stoicism shifts the question. Instead of asking, how do I make them act better? It asks, how do I protect my character and peace? Because your character is yours, their behavior is not. You cannot regulate their mood. You cannot manage their anger. You cannot correct their instability. But you can control your access, your time, your availability, your attention. Attention is currency, and toxic people survive on emotional transactions. The more attention you give, positive or negative, the more power they feel. Withdrawal is not weakness. It is strategy. Shorter conversations, less emotional investment, fewer explanations, clearer limits. You don't need dramatic exits. You don't need public announcements. You don't need revenge. You need clarity. Clarity sounds like, I'm not comfortable with that. I won't engage in this conversation. If this continues, I will leave. And if they test the boundary, you follow through, without rage, without theatrics, without guilt. The longer you tolerate toxic behavior, the more you betray yourself, not because you are weak, but because you are prioritizing their comfort over your dignity. Self-betrayal is quiet. It happens in small moments, when you laugh at a joke that hurt you, when you stay silent to avoid tension, when you accept blame for something that wasn't yours, when you apologize for needing respect. And one day you wake up and feel resentment, heavy, persistent, unavoidable. Resentment is the voice of unprotected boundaries. It is the signal that you have been compromising too long.
Stoicism does not encourage hatred. It does not encourage revenge. It encourages alignment. Alignment between your values and your behavior. If you value respect, act in a way that protects it. If you value peace, make decisions that preserve it. If you value integrity, stop participating in dynamics that erode it. Here is the cold truth. Toxic people do not destroy you by force. They destroy you with the permission you keep giving. Permission to disrespect, permission to manipulate, permission to cross lines, permission to repeat patterns. And every permission granted makes the next violation easier. You do not owe anyone unlimited access. You do not owe anyone endless tolerance. You do not owe your peace. Peace is not passive. It is protected. It is chosen. It is defended. There will be consequences. When you set boundaries, some people will resist. They may accuse you of changing. They may say you're cold. They may attempt guilt. Let them. Because discomfort does not equal wrongdoing, and conflict does not equal failure. Give your time only to what respects your peace. No drama, no endless arguments, no emotional exhaustion, just distance, clarity, self-respect. Because the moment you stop tolerating what diminishes you, you begin to rebuild what strengthens you. And that is the Stoic path. Not fixing chaos, not arguing with dysfunction, but stepping beyond it.